Alright, so here we are in our IDE and we are looking at the chat endpoint. Now remember when we were taking a look at the documentation, we said there were two ways to create WebSocket applications on the Java EE platform. We could use the programmatic way or we could use the annotation way. Now the first part of this part of the course, we'll take a look at the annotation way, and that is what we have here. Now the sample that we just looked at, the sample run we looked at, this is all there is to that sample run. There is one endpoint deployed at the chat URI using the server endpoint. Remember we said the server endpoint is a class level annotation that is put on a POJO. Putting this on a POJO essentially tells the Java EE container that you want to deploy this particular class at that URI that you specify. And so the container will dutifully deploy the class automatically for you, and then your class will be available there responding to various WebSocket events. So let's take a look at it. We have the server endpoint here. Remember we said the server endpoint has a number of parameters, one of which is compulsory, which is the value annotation, the value parameter. So without passing any other annotation, passing in a string suffices for the value parameter. This could equally be written as value like this, and then we pass in chat like this. This is the same as what we wrote earlier. So this is the same as what we had earlier. Now, when the server deploys your application, it will create a URI namespace for this particular class, and this class will be available at the /chat endpoint URI. So then it will be available to listen to WebSocket events. WebSocket events are essentially four. We have the open, we have the close, we have the message, and then we have essentially those are the message, the three core ones, and then we have the error. That is when there is an error. Essentially, you would be using generally the open and then the on message ones. Now, we did mention that there are a number of annotations. There's life cycle points. You can use annotations for the life cycle points. So since we are doing annotation, everything else must follow like that. It must be annotation based. So the first annotation we are using in this class is the onOpen. If you remember the documentation we looked at, we said onOpen essentially is placed on a method in an endpoint class that will be called when a new connection happens. And that is essentially what happens. When there is a new connection, the onOpen method will be called and passed in a session. Now, this session that we are passing in here is optional. So you could just say public void open without any parameter here, and then the container will still call it. But generally, you would want to get the session. The session, remember we said the session interface contains information about the currently connected peer. So you would want to take the session and then use it to do a few other things. Let's look at some things you can do with the session.